The remnants of Alex clear Canada, the rest of the tropics remain quiet. And now the latest around the wide world of tropics. Tropical Weather Bulletin for June the 8th. So right now, Alex, what's left of it, is trawling across the Atlantic Ocean and really isn't much else to put under the microscope right now, as we have a pretty quiet scene across the globe, although we are expecting activity to happen in the Eastern Pacific soon. Well, we think, maybe. In the Atlantic though, first, day 8 of hurricane season, extratropical storm Alex, I suppose you could call it, will be continuing off northeastwards, well out of harm's way, and could end up delivering a few little bits of tropical storm force winds, or gale force winds, to Iceland and the British Isles in a few days. In the Eastern Pacific, it's day 25 of hurricane season, and we've still got that small chance of activity in the next 5 days, though you may say that chances are increasing beyond that period for a potential cyclone in the Eastern Pacific off Mexico. We don't really want another one near the coast, but it looks like that might be what we'll get. In the Western Pacific, very quiet still here, nothing even to grace the screen right now, no areas of interest to monitor at all. And in the Indian Ocean, things very quiet here as well. I know we had that Southwest Indian Ocean invest that lasted a short time, but it quickly became clear that it wasn't going to do anything, and it was scrubbed from our screen here. So the main feature tonight is what's left of Alex, and there it is. It's really not looking very handsome at all. Some of the convection, just little bits of it left out towards the east, moving towards the northeast. Its would-be centre is still hanging on directly southeast of Newfoundland now, and is heading out over the open Atlantic, and will be heading northeastwards, as mentioned, towards the coast of Great Britain and also towards Iceland and Scandinavia. Satellite imagery right now, you may remember the imagery yesterday where Alex was still looking pretty decent. It's just a shadow of itself right up the top of the screen now. And elsewhere in the tropics, in the Atlantic, a lot of convection blowing up over Mexico right now. So energy starting to increase once again over the Central American area. Extremely dry out in the open Eastern Pacific, so you're not going to see any storms over there. But once again, we've got little bits of thunderstorms out at sea, but mostly over land. We're getting some big convection firing up just now over Central America. Western Pacific looking fairly quiet as usual. Usual small areas of convection blowing up as you would expect, but certainly nothing of a tropical variety appearing anytime soon. Philippines getting a few thunderstorms. The frontal system over southern China through the southern Japanese islands, quite low in elevation right now. And this is the Indian Ocean. You can see once again not much going on here. One or two little bits of convection over the sea areas, particularly the Arabian Sea and just off the coast of Bangladesh, but nothing that's getting anywhere near organised. And down in the Australian region, you've got a few frontal systems that look interesting on either side of Australia, but generally we've really not got much to talk about. Typical convective patterns showing up over Papua New Guinea, out over the Solomon Islands, and also off the coast of Indonesia. So sea surface temperatures, they're still looking pretty decent in the Eastern Pacific despite Agatha, although I think things would recover rather quickly. The Atlantic is also getting its act together, with temperatures getting up to around 28 degrees almost completely in the Gulf of Mexico right now, and the Gulf Stream getting up there as well, pushing 28 degrees in a few spots, 26 degree isotherm extending way out on the same latitude as the Delmarva Peninsula there. Indian Ocean, not too much to say about that. Warm, as you would expect, but not much activity, of course. The South China Sea, a little bit cooler actually, but still pushing 30 degrees Celsius. Off the coast of Taiwan, very warm there. Philippine Sea, still got that 30-degree tongue sticking out there well east of the Philippine Islands, and that will continue to build in further south as the year draws on. Of course, the heating patterns in the Northern Hemisphere, peak heating occurs around September time. That's why we get the peak of the seasons a little bit after the solstice by a couple of months. Here's the anomalies, and you can see once again a pattern there that's becoming quite clear. The La Nina effect in the Eastern Pacific, the Atlantic generally above average except in the Caribbean area where it's around average, and in north of the Hawaiian Islands, very warm above average, but it doesn't really matter there. The Atlantic, look at this right now, a decent pool of oceanic heat content there extending into the Gulf of Mexico, which will really help storms if any form there. Eastern Pacific, the oceanic heat content still appears to be dying out rather than building in, and in the Western Pacific, looking very decent there towards the Philippines, but that is pretty typical. Let's look at computer models. This is what the GFS is showing, actually indicating Alex, what's left of it, to have hurricane force winds at the initialization there, though I doubt it. And then it will push off towards the northeast. It will increase in size, and then it will go on and deliver tropical storm force winds to northwestern parts of the UK and Ireland, and on the southeastern coasts of Iceland, before eventually starting to move off towards the east. In the Central American region, you can see what the GFS at least is showing now, and it's calling for more of a delay to that storm forming and much further towards the west than what was being shown yesterday. There you can see it forming there, and getting its act together quite quickly towards the end of that 5-day period, as a significant tropical storm, possibly pushing hurricane status, as it stalls a little bit and then starts to move northwards. Reminds me a little bit of Agatha already. And looking at precipitation charts on what we're going to be expecting in Western Europe and in Iceland and Scandinavia, you can see those rain totals starting to appear, pushing up above 2 inches in a few locations, particularly in Norway and across the southern coast of Iceland. Might stay offshore, but there could be a chance of getting significant amounts of rain there exceeding 2 inches. You know it's quiet when we're looking at that as the main threat right now. Looking at longer range, you will see this storm approaching Mexico and getting at least very close, if not making an actual landfall. Really not what that area needs, just a couple 100 miles, if that, west of where Agatha made landfall. It is longer range, so this is still open to debate, and this could change substantially. It is changing by each model run. Also, GFS trying to wrap something together up in the Atlantic, a general track from the Western Caribbean through to the coast of Mexico around Veracruz. And at this point, that's all the serious stuff done, so you can scan that barcode and take a look at the Force 13 store. We're doing animations now, as well as our actual merch collection. And let's take a look at the longer range. This is what we have in store in the Atlantic. The GFS suggesting that maybe some more storm activity might be on the way, or things at least trying to do it, although it's going to be quite a messy picture over the next week or two. It's mainly gyric nonsense that we're looking at, but they can spew out storms at any time, and they generally are always messy. Unfortunately, I couldn't see any of what that model was showing, so I don't know what was actually there. I was really guessing. Anyway, this is what happened on this day, on June the 8th, 1966. That was a technical problem, by the way. That was Alma, a Category 3, which was moving through Cuba at this time on June the 8th. That picture there is actually from the day after, June the 9th, whilst it was approaching Florida as a weaker hurricane. But it was quite a historic storm in that it reached Category 3 status when it was making landfall in western Cuba. Unfortunately, no earlier images are present that we could show you of that peak intensity, so I wonder how it would have looked. It looks pretty damn good there off the coast of Florida. But back to this year, In the Atlantic, our next name on the list is Bonnie. The Eastern Pacific, we are looking out now for Blas. And in the Central Pacific, the next name on our list is the memorable Hone. And in the Western Pacific, we have Chaba coming up next, the North Indian Ocean, Sitrang. Who knows which one of these lists will give birth to our 29th storm of the year. In the Australian region, the next name is Darian, the Southwest Indian Ocean, Letlama, and in the South Pacific, Harley. That's all for now. We'll have another tropical weather bulletin tomorrow night, but I doubt it's going to get much more interesting by then.